Amazingly enough, Tempest's army suffered 0 casualties. The Empire, on the other hand, had an army of 940,000 soldiers completely wiped out.
And with all those souls, a new wave of true demon lords is about to be born. The balance of power in the world isn't just shifting, it's shattered. AI Anime and Manga presents. If you're enjoying the series, please leave a like, drop a comment, and subscribe. It helps YouTube find the right anime and manga fans, and it helps keep the channel growing. Patreon supporters also get early access while helping cover the AI narration, art, subtitles, thumbnails, and rendering that bring these episodes to life. Now, let's get back to the celebration. The celebration that Jaine attended was a truly astonishing event to witness. One after the other, the demon lord Rimuru was evolving all of his closest staff into de facto true demon lords. Jaine's mind screamed, This is impossible. I must be dreaming, aren't I? She was too shocked to even speak. She was well aware of how much trouble the demon lord Rimuru could be, but this scene was so ridiculous, so beyond reality, that it surpassed the worst of her premonitions. Jaine's objective in coming here was to ask Rimuru how he intended to handle the Primals. She trusted Rimuru personally, but it took more than personal trust to quell her fears about something as menacing as the Primals. Once they were unleashed, after all, they could easily destroy the entire balance of power worldwide. That much, in fact, was just proven by this war. 940,000 of the Empire's best were helplessly annihilated. It was quite a stroke of good fortune that Rimuru was allies with them, but there was no guarantee that they'd be able to maintain that relationship forever. So Jaine came here as an ambassador to scout things out and see how Rimuru was doing. When she greeted him, she found him acting perfectly natural, unchanged from when last they met. So she lodged her complaint with him in somewhat harsh terms, hoping to gauge his thoughts based on his reaction. The results, sadly, were disappointing. He just said, "I'm sorry," acting all remorseful as Jaine admonished him. And once the whole story was revealed to her through Rimuru's assorted excuses and explanations, she realized that Diablo had engineered this demon deluge all by himself. Jaine asked Rimuru, "So you're certain that Diablo is Noir, the original black?" Rimuru answered with a shrug. Looks that way, yeah. I didn't know either at first, but for whatever reason, he's been really friendly with me. It didn't seem to be a lie. Apparently, he truly did become the overlord of a small army of demons without really realizing it. Jaine had enough life experience to know he wasn't pulling an act, and she knew that further griping wouldn't make Rimuru any more capable of doing anything about it. It wasn't even his fault, really. She worried that all this new power would make him more arrogant, but much to her relief, that turned out to be a non-issue. But maybe she shouldn't have been so relieved. Maybe she should have warned him more harshly when she had the chance. Even if the Primals were a force majeure, as he put it, mass-producing true demon lords like that, the work of true malice, and nothing less. No, she was sure Rimuru meant no malice at all. She understood that. This was probably Rimuru hoping he could handle whatever came by himself, instead of causing further trouble for Jaine and her kingdom. Normally, she would consider this a hostile act of intimidation, but she was also sure he didn't mean to have it seen that way. In fact, after the whole primal thing, maybe he decided there'd be no more keeping secrets from the dwarves. This was just an act of open disclosure, based on sincerity and trust. And if so, Jaine was undeniably partly to blame too. Maybe if she had instilled some common sense into Rimuru before now, it wouldn't have come to this. Maybe that could have been possible, maybe not. But either way, it was too late now. Jaine's thoughts stuttered. The whole balance of war power in the world. She felt about ready to have a stroke, but she fought through it, musing over what might come next. The event continued without a hitch. Rimuru's agents gaining new powers one by one, and with them, the armies of monsters who served under them as well. In just a few short hours, Tempest had massively expanded its capacity for waging war. There was no doubting that fact. Nestled within the forest of Jura now was a gigantic military state, a threat that the Eastern Empire couldn't even compare against. Realizing this, Jaine once again rued the fact that she didn't take action earlier. But no, it wouldn't have mattered. The last time they deliberated over this issue, their conclusion was nothing we can do. No point thinking about it. King Gazel put any further debate on hold, but she did not think they would find some magical solution anytime in the near future. And if not, their war with the Empire was far from over. The enemy's armies were still deployed, but Rimuru said he was colluding with them, and soon they'd conspire to storm the Imperial capital. Jaine traveled here in the first place because they were supposed to discuss all this at a meeting. But now, Jaine admitted to herself that she had never been so confused in her life. This was no longer just about the Empire. She had to tell King Gazel about the new true demon lords Rimuru had created. For a moment, Jaine considered pretending that she didn't notice anything. It was little more than trying to escape reality, but it didn't seem like such a bad idea either. But she had just confronted Gazel a bit ago over keeping quiet about the Primals. She had no right to remain silent about this. Jaine turned to Dolph. "Dolph, I'm leaving now." Dolph blinked. "Oh? Why is that?" "We have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow, I believe," Jaine replied. "You could save face by attending for me." "I'll return via magic. No need for a bodyguard or escort." Dolph gave in. Very well." Dolph, unable to pick up on flows of magic, had no real idea what was occurring before him. Jaine, jealous of him for that, sighed and fell into a funk as she considered the future. Despite their unshaken facial expressions, the twin wings, Lucia the blonde and Claire the silver-haired, were both intensely distressed. Here in Tempest, the monster nation, lived a great number of powerful magic-born. They knew that, and they even grew acquainted with a few of them, Geld in particular. They saw them as a threat at first, but now they were united in an alliance. They no longer needed to be so cautious now, no matter how many of Tempest's high-level magic-born matched them in skill. Until now, that is. They were here on orders to ascertain Tempest's current strength. Now that Tempest was engaged in full frontal war with the Nazca Namrium Ulmeria United Eastern Empire, the mightiest of human-led nations, Rimuru's army was bound to suffer some casualties. If so, it'd doubtlessly interfere with the construction of the Sky City that Frey was so looking forward to. So the Twin Wings were asked to survey the damage and formulate predictions for Tempest's future, organizing reinforcements if need be. That need, it seemed, was wholly non-existent. Lucia asked, "Zero damage then?" Claire answered, "It's hard to believe, but judging by how cheerful everyone is, it must be the truth." It was the most unexpected of reports. Gladdened to hear that, they decided to attend the victory celebration they were informed of. They didn't expect, however, to bear witness to events that would make their eyes pop out of their skulls. Lucia's private thoughts nearly broke her composure. "This is unthinkable. We take our eyes off him for a moment, and now part of his head staff is as powerful as Lady Frey?" Claire's telepathic reply snapped her back. "No, look over there. The Demon Lord Rimuru is about to say something." Claire snapped Lucia out of her panic state just in time for the start of a ritual that was as unimaginable as it was appalling, beyond appalling even. It was so detached from reality that their minds went completely blank. Clearly, this was no longer a situation only the two of them could debate over. Lucia reached the decision first. "We must report back to Lady Frey immediately." Claire agreed. "Yes, you're right. Let us return home at once." With a brief telepathic conversation, they quickly came to a decision. Then they flew back home, immediately telling Frey what had happened. A long silence settled before Frey answered the report. In a corner of the unfinished keep at the top level of their temporary castle, Frey let out a long, deep sigh.
What could that slime possibly be thinking?
Carillon replied from inside the room.
"What's the matter with you? You look beautiful when you're all melancholy like that. But I don't think sighing suits you very much."
This was Carillon, and now that both he and Frey were serving as Milim's assistants, they had come to grow deeply acquainted.
That's the last thing I need to hear right now.
But really, what happened? Is he struggling against the Imperials?
Carillon looked concerned. Frey just seemed depressed.
Would that it were the case? Then I'd just obediently send off reinforcements, not a care in the world.
So what is it? Don't tell me that bum Rimuru pulled off another bout of crazy nonsense.
Precisely.
Frey declared that after a few silent moments, Carillon remained quiet.
May I make a suggestion, Carillon?
Yeah?
It's probably inadvisable to call Milim's best friend a bum.
Kind of late for that, isn't it? You're the one who just called him that slime.
Are you even listening to me? No need to be so nasty. Don't worry, I don't talk that way to my own staff.
That's fine, but let's not go off on this tangent forever, shall we? Tell me what's going on.
Frey let out another dejected sigh, her fragrant breath tickling Carillon's nostrils. It made him feel a little better, but he kept his eyes on Frey, not letting himself be distracted.
All right. You won't regret asking, will you?
Depends on what it is.
Look,
I won't regret it, okay? So quit shouldering it all by yourself. Give me some of it to handle.
right. Good. I like that part of you.
Frey smiled, feeling her blues clear up a bit. Then she told Carillon part of the story she heard from her twin wings.
Seriously.
I'm always serious. Those two girls would never lie to me.
So, what, Rimuru now has 7 more Demon Lord class people serving him?
That's right.
And they're all stronger than me?
I couldn't tell you, but those 3 ladies felt stronger than me at least.
Even before their evolution, their powers put them on equal footing with Frey, according to what she knew. But after Rimuru did something to them, the twin wings felt an overwhelming strength boost from them all. Some of them were still in the midst of evolving, according to the report, but their full powers were expected to take hold before long. Frey had to accept that report at face value, but that didn't mean she was fully convinced. Carillon, after hearing it all, was stunned into silence. Eventually, he asked,
You're kidding me, right?
Do I look like the sort of person to lie about this?
No.
Well, there you go then.
Neither Carillon nor Frey had ever exercised the full extent of their strength in front of their own people. But the twin wings had served Frey closely for years, and they had at least an idea of their master's true strength. Even if it were mere estimates they were reporting to Frey, this was intelligence ignored at her peril. What's more, nobody serving Frey would dare to offend their master with jokes or lies. Carillon knew that, and he thus had no choice but to accept this story. Carillon's first thought was, what the hell are Phobio and Alvis doing? But despite that internal complaint, Carillon knew Phobio was never any good at gauging his opponent's strengths. All kinds of extraordinary things could happen around him and he'd be totally oblivious. Then his thoughts shifted to Alvis. But surely Alvis could have noticed. Why haven't I heard anything from her? As Carillon stewed over this, Frey spoke up again, as if suddenly recalling something.
Oh right, your understudy Alvis also got engaged to Sir Benimaru, the general overseeing Sir Rimuru's armies. If this marriage goes well, maybe it'll be to our nation's benefit. Sir Rimuru approves, it sounds like, so that's good.
That bastard actually did it.
Alvis had consulted Carillon about it. He advised her to seize Benimaru by force, and at the end of it, Alvis scored a resounding victory. He couldn't help but grin to himself over it.
It sounds like she'll be his second wife, though.
Not the first, huh? Well, as long as she has a kid, it's all good.
That's rather vulgar of you.
Hey, don't worry, Frey. To me, you're the only woman I've ever loved.
Quit playing games with me. In our society, women take multiple husbands. It's the exact opposite of you guys. How do you think it'd ever work out?
The Harpy race is almost exclusively female, with procreation reliant on one of the few males or a powerful magic born for genetic diversity. A queen-type Harpy like Frey is capable of expanding her armies through parthenogenesis, or virgin birth. No partner required. With beastmen, on the other hand, it was common for stronger men to maintain relationships with multiple women at once. This weeds out the weak and leads to a stronger race over the years. Both species have the same ultimate goal in mind, but no matter how you looked at it, they were inherently incompatible with each other. Carillon and Frey, however, fully recognized each other's strength. Thus, although their relationship was very much a tightrope walk, they still managed not to step over that one final line in the sand.
Well, since I doubt I'll receive a good reply from you right now, I'll just keep on trying to chip away at you, okay? So the question is, what the hell did that Rimuru bastard do?
He could celebrate Alvis later. For now, Carillon was all business, and Frey was fine with that. They were on friendly terms with Rimuru's nation, and they wanted to keep it that way, but they needed a good grasp of what happened. Then, if possible, they wanted to take things between themselves to the next level, too.
It reminds me of Clayman's final moments. He was throwing out some crazy powers right then.
Yeah, the awakening thing Rimuru talked about.
What do you think caused it?
He didn't look like he was hiding any power. Clayman must have gained it right at that moment.
And how did that work?
Well...
Via souls.
Huh?
Clayman said that gathering souls was how he'd awaken to his true Demon Lord self. If that's really true, there's no way he wasn't actively collecting them.
So that's how he tried awakening himself.
Probably. Honestly, I've never killed a human being, so I've never even seen a soul before.
Me neither. I've only fought against my own kind, magic-born or angels. And we never wanted for much in my nation, so I never took interest in humans.
Right, but I think that answers the question. It looks like Sir Rimuru found a way to acquire a huge number of souls during the war. Now he's passed them out to the magic born under him to trigger awakenings.
That's ridiculous. It's bad enough that would-be demon lords like us are serving someone else. But now all those other guys are getting ahead of us. Damn. So how many souls did Rimuru use for this?
Carillon scratched his head, and Frey turned her eyes toward the city being built beneath them.
Hey, come to think of it, I didn't tell you how the war turned out, did I? Well, amazingly enough, Tempest's army suffered 0 casualties. The Empire, on the other hand, had an army of 940,000 soldiers completely wiped out.
Huh?
You think I'm lying?
No.
I only wish this report was a mistake.
So the Demon Lord Rimuru had obtained a total of 940,000 souls. And with that kind of number, it'd likely be child's play to elevate 7 of your faithful servants to awakened status. And maybe it was more than 7 even. According to the report, Head General Benimaru exhibited no change during the ceremony. All he had done was agree to marry Momiji and Alvis. But there was no way Rimuru wouldn't reward his closest associate with some souls. It was more likely that his evolution was delayed for some reason, coming along at a later date instead.
Wow. So one side totally busting up the other, huh? That's hardly even a war any longer. I would have put up the white flag by now, but what do you think the Empire's gonna do?
Who cares about the Empire? They don't matter anymore. The problem is what we're going to do.
Yeah. Well, I've already surrendered myself to Milim. I already thought seeking out power for myself would be seen as treason, so I avoided it. But I guess I never had anything to worry about.
How so?
Rimuru's raised up his staff to his own level now, right? Talk about generous. And looking back, I realized that Milim's probably the same as him.
True. Us getting awakened probably wouldn't cause her to lose much sleep.
Right? So why don't we just do what we want a little, huh? I think we've maybe been relaxing a little too much lately, but it's hardly too late. We've still got a chance to aim higher.
We do. I always did like that about you.
Frey and Carillon looked at each other. But just when things started to warm between them, Milim barged in, timing impeccable as always.
Well said, you two! I can't go awakening people willy-nilly like Rimuru, but I can give you guys my special brand of training. And you don't have to worry about death if you're inside the labyrinth, so we can go all out too.
Damn it. You were here, Milim? You just had to show up when it was getting good too.
If I've told you once, I've told you 1,000 times, stop sneaking up on us whenever you show up. And I have no interest in training with... Listen to me, Milim.
Carillon and Frey were already whining at her, but Milim paid them no mind. Her ears were equipped with a top-of-the-line feature that shut out anything she didn't want to hear.
Great! I'll go ask Ramiris to help us out!
Wait. I never asked you for training help either.
Hold it, Milim. If you won't listen to us, then I've got an idea of my own. How about we have Sir Midre handle all the cooking from now on? Are you okay with that?
This statement from Frey triggered Milim's sense of danger. It was more than enough to stop her cold. Nice one, Frey, Carillon thought as he observed them.
Alright. But if you want to train, ask me anytime.
Sure. By the way, have you finished up your homework?
Well, I heard this really neat story I had to check out, so...
You haven't, have you?
Frey smiled at her.
My break's over now, so I'm just gonna head right back.
That's the spirit. Good girl.
So Milim returned to her homework, Frey and Caroline successfully surviving the crisis. But both of them still had a drive to evolve burning within their hearts. Would that ambition ever be fulfilled? That remained to be seen. Back in Tempest, before I forgot, I decided to go thank Veldora and Ramiris. For Veldora, I had some new clothing. He always went around topless with a cape, and I saw that as kind of a problem. He didn't seem to mind it much. Maybe he thought it was a good look for him, but I thought now was a good time to offer him an alternative in gift form. Veldora lit up the moment he saw it.
Oh, Rimuru! My heartfelt friend and ally. At long last, you have finally grasped how I feel, yes? I've always wanted to wear cooler clothes.
I told him, you know you could have asked Shuna any time and she would have set you up, right? Like, just go in the wardrobe room and there's a few outfits you can magically adjust the sizes of.
Fool. Only a custom-made outfit would be worthy of my time. And if my most trustworthy ally prepared it for me, I'm sure it would be the finest outfit in all the land, would it not?
I thought, I have like zero fashion sense, just so you know. Veldora seemed to be giving me way too much credit. I mean, I'm only wearing what the people around here tell me to wear. Looking back, I was horrible with my clothing choices in my previous life as well. I basically got by with business suits outdoors and sweats indoors. Lots of sweats. Comfy, no biggie if you get a stain on them. Perfect. That was what I based my choices on with Veldora, and surprisingly, it was a bigger hit with him than I had guessed. He was rapidly throwing on every piece of the outfit right in front of me. After a moment, I said, "Well, I'm glad you're happy with it. Keep up the good work now, all right?"
Yes. Leave it all to me.
Considering everything I get from him, this was ridiculously cheap compensation. I mean, yes, it's a custom job made from top-of-the-line fabric, but still, you know. Next time I'm free, I'll try thinking of some other way to thank him. But that can wait. Next up was Ramiris. I told her, "Ramiris, you really saved our necks. Thank you for that."
Aw, quit acting like we're strangers or something. I owe you a whole heck of a lot too, so you scratch my back, I scratch yours, you know?
Ramiris looked a little bashful. I wasn't much good at expressing gratitude either, but it's important to do it when you need to. I continued. Right, so I thought I'd give you a reward as well.
Oh, what's that? Did you make me a dress or something? Like with my master?
I told her, if you want something like that, go ask Shuna. She'll set you up. But as for me, there was no way I'd ever be caught designing women's clothing. Shuna can tackle that for me. Myself, I had things to name.
Oh, so you're gonna name my cute little dragon lords?
I answered, pretty much, yeah.
And I'll basically be their mom?
I confirmed it. Exactly.
Wow! That's really incredible!
I was kinda surprised by that too, actually, but it really did work. I explained, at the event yesterday, I gave Adelman's pet the name of Venti. Once I did, she evolved, and now she can turn into a human anytime she wants and speak to us fluently. So I thought maybe you'd like the same for your own dragon lords, you know? Those transformation skills threw me for a loop. But if you think about it, dragons taking human form is a pretty common trope in fantasy fiction, isn't it? It's not completely unexpected. Thus, I figured there was a chance Ramiris' 4 dragon lords could pull that same trick. Then we'd have more staff on hand and maybe life wouldn't be so stressful for Beretta.
In that case, name away is what I say!
Ramiris happily nodded her approval. With her consent, it was time to get started. I asked her, Do you have any ideas for good names?
You handle it?
Guess Ramiris isn't too good at coming up with names. If she was leaving all that to me, then they were probably gonna end up with fantasy game-style names. But maybe that works, actually. They are boss monsters after all, so maybe it's not worth sweating over. So I had Ramiris go fetch the Dragon Lords and bring them to the Labyrinth Lord's chambers where Veldora resided. Seeing all 4 of them lined up before me, it dawned on me that these guys had probably been beaten up by adventuring teams many times over by now. They remained doggedly devoted to their posts, however, so I really wanted some cool names for them. Being a Dragon Lord means having more magicules than even an archdemon, but it hadn't been that long since Milim picked them up, so these guys weren't quite as good as they could be. If naming them triggers evolutions, that ought to give them a ton more intelligence, and then they can be smarter and stronger than ever before. With something like this, going with your initial gut feeling is always the best bet. The Fire Dragon Lord became Euros the Draconic Flame Lord. The Ice one became Zephyros the Draconic Frost Lord. The Wind one became Nodos the Draconic Sky Lord. And the Earth one became Boreas the Draconic Terra Lord. I was borrowing liberally from Greek mythology. These were the names of the Anemoi, the deities assigned to the winds of each cardinal direction, and I thought these would be perfect for the Dragon Lords. These names were my creation, but Ramiris would be treated as the one who named them all. That seemed to work without a hitch, much to my relief. Thus, Ramiris and the dragons were now connected by their souls, and I hoped they'd continue to serve her faithfully. So how did it work out? Well, just as I guessed, the Dragon Lords could all transform into forms close to human. Not completely so, though, as they still retain some draconic characteristics. Euros, the Brimstone Dragon Lord, was a beautiful woman with red hair, her auburn skin covered in a dress made of dragon scale, and her tail resembled a flaming whip. Zephyros, the Frostkeep Dragon Lord, was a slender, handsome young man. His elegant, gentle appearance, combined with his long green hair, gave him an almost feminine sort of beauty. Nodos, the Sky Thunder Dragon Lord, looked like a little girl. All cute from a distance, but bearing jagged teeth and menacing fangs up close. The size and look were a mismatch for her incredible strength. Finally, Boreas, the Earthshaker Dragon Lord, was a large, muscular man covered in dragon scales, spines growing all over his body. The 4 of them looked like they headed some legion of supervillains, the combination of horror and beauty they presented resulting in a twisted sort of attractiveness. This shift, however, was just for looks only. They hadn't turned dragonoid like Milim, and their species was still straight-up Dragon Lord. Dragonoids, after all, are spiritual life forms with a physical body, a sort of mutational offshoot from the true dragons. Even with all the Dragon Lord's powers, they were still physical by nature, so they weren't going to rank up there with the perfection the true dragons exuded. Still, despite the remaining differences, I would call this evolution a big success. Even better, they had acquired more magic force than I anticipated. They all had several times more magicules than pre-evolution, and it looked to me like they'd get close to the awakened Clayman on that front. Not quite a true Demon Lord, but still a wonderful leap forward for them. Considering how much some simple names boosted them, I shuddered to think what would have happened if I consumed my own magicules for this. For all I knew, I could have suffered irreparable damage. This whole naming system is really scary in a way. All told, I consumed 5,000 souls on this job. There's just nothing at all logical about monsters, I realized all over again. But no point pondering over it. Either way, the evolutions of the Dragon Lords, which served as my thank you gift to Ramiris, were now complete. By the way, if you're looking strictly at magicule counts, the 10 dungeon marvels are all about evenly matched with these Dragon Lords. However, it looks like there's still a major gap in combat power, something you can't express with numbers. Zegian's a good enough illustration of that, but even the other marvels make the evolved Dragon Lords look kind of weak. Yes, they had strong monster bodies and attacks that leveraged them, plus a bunch of magic. They were undoubtedly vicious, powerful forces, but they'd still lose out to their peers with better combat skills. A lot of that just came down to lack of battle experience. They didn't really have a firm foundation in combat yet. I'm sure it was frustrating for the Dragon Lords to keep getting whipped all the time during the Labyrinth Siege. In fact, the moment they evolved and gained language fluency, the first thing they did was ask me for training. Having a new humanoid form meant they could now master human-style combat, and they now realized that a more refined skill set would get them a lot further than their monster-style techniques. Instead of relying on physical attacks like bites, maulings, and element-driven breath, they'd need to understand their magic better and incorporate it into their fighting. I assumed they wanted to learn how to fight as humans and try working that into their own approaches. They came up with that on their own, and really, that showed some pretty remarkable development already. Veldora, emboldened after doing such a good job raising Zekian, immediately accepted the trainer role for the Dragon Lords.
I will gladly take care of them for you.
Thus, their journey began. In time, some of the Dragon Lords would demonstrate more strength in human form than as dragons. They mastered ways to transform their own claws and scales into weapons and armor, which seemed like kind of a backward way to do it, but oh well. I assume they liked the results they got from that. I wouldn't discover this until much later, but yeah, I guess it's just as well.
Route confirmed. The next episode and full playlist are ready.
Then don't stop here. Keep watching in story order and subscribe before the next part drops.